refreshing. Of course, it's always those times where I think it's going to delay and it doesn't.
And everybody now is watching it going, why are they just sitting there talking?
Okay, we're good. Okay. Hey, everyone. Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 20, A Piece of the Action is over and has been since 1968. But we are just getting started here on Live Long and Rewatch this episode. I'm Dave Mader, cover Star Trek tea and movie reviews. We are streaming live on our Facebook page at Live Long and Podcast. You may also be watching us on our YouTube channel or listening to us on the audio version. Welcome to all of you, present and future. Let's talk about this episode. I'm joined by a fabulous panel today. Of course, on the top right-hand side of your screen, you got the ever salty Jody Simpson. Say hello, Jody.
Salty. Hello, Jody.
And joining us for the first time this season, the reason we're doing this podcast at all, my father and Jeff's father, in the bottom left-hand corner, Ted Mader. Say hello, Dad.
Hello, folks. Hello. Welcome. Glad to be here.
He's in. And we needed somebody who was alive when this episode actually aired. And then we got Jeff Mader, my brother, here in the bottom right-hand corner, here to help talk about this episode. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, if you want a piece of the action, you better start cooperating, okay?
Yeah,
hey.
Okay. We're talking today about gangsters in Chicago. Let's talk about this. Okay, I gotta say, this is a fun episode. I can see why you wanted to talk about this one, Dad. We were kind of talking a little bit before the show. Maybe not the most Star Trek-y episode ever made, but certainly a fun one. So, how did everyone enjoy rewatching this one?
Go ahead, Salty.
Yeah, go ahead, Salty.
It just reminded me that there was a lot of original series episodes that didn't actually have anything to do with Star Trek. It was like the least Star Trek of all the episodes I've seen. Well, one of them anyway.
Well,
there's still a couple other episodes.
There are a lot of others that
yeah,
are even
true
less
enough.
so.
Is it a fun episode? Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But is it a gold masterpiece of Star Trek? No. That's about as far as I'm going to go with it right now, but I'm sure we'll get more depth.
Well, I got to kick in there, and I'm a big fan of the ones where they go back to Earth as we know it in our lifetime, or some of the episodes where it was gangsters, and this one, and some was space program, and others were Hitler's Germany. So going back into those ones, it actually adds a little bit of historical value as well as sci-fi. So kind of get a mix of both worlds there. And that's kind of what this episode and a few of those other ones I mentioned bring to the table. And it kind of brings back the far-fetched sci-fi things and brings it more, we can understand this because we lived through it, or
it's relatable.
Yeah, it's relatable. Yeah.
Right.
Good point.
Okay, Jeff, what's your opening thoughts on this?
For me, the episode was a good template for what they ended up doing later in the movies. In like A Voyage Home, for instance, there was a lot of comedy. You got the Fizbin game. You got just I think I counted 4 Vulcan nerve pinches in this episode.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of plot conveniences, but it was just like, I felt like whoever wrote this episode was running for like, okay, they're going to get out of this room. Then they're going to go beat this mob boss. And they're going to get out of this room. They're going to go beat that mob boss.
I feel like the notes were like, we need Kirk punching as many gangsters as possible. Because that's always like their go-to thing, right? It's like, Spock does that Vulcan nerve pinch. But,
yes.
But Kirk
I wonder why I could never teach the other guys how to do that. It always bugged me about that.
Only Data.
Well, Vulcans are stronger, and Data would also be very strong. So maybe it's like a strength thing. Like, you really got to press down on that nerve.
So, Dave, can you recall who the 2 main gangsters were, right?
Yeah, we had Bella
Oxnix.
Yeah, and we had Krakow.
Yes.
Right.
Now, who was the third guy that they brought in? Do you remember his name?
Oh, it was like Peppo or something.
Tempo.
Tempo. I'm gonna come over there with a couple of my guys and mess you up.
Yeah.
And it felt like we probably were supposed to see a scene with him as well, but it's almost like they ran out of time or something, so they just kind of threw him in at the end.
Yeah, because he was a tough guy. Teppo, he was a tough guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was a little weasel when they first got him, but then he became a tough guy once he's seen all the other guys there. You know.
Yeah, like all the guest stars in this episode, very fun and good. I looked it up. Most of them are dead. The only ones who are still alive from this episode are William Shatner, Nichelle Nichols, and one of the background players on the bridge.
I don't think Nichelle Nichols was in that episode.
Yeah, she was. She was on the bridge.
Maybe at the beginning.
Walter Koenig is still alive as well, Dave.
Is he in the episode?
Yeah, barely.
And
He's
Sulu.
in one scene. Sulu's not in the. Sulu's in one scene.
Sulu's not in this one. Scotty's in this one quite a bit. Scotty's always the guy on the ship.
Well, he's always the one that he's talking to, right?
James Doohan also did the voice of the man on the radio, so he actually had two parts in this episode.
Oh, okay.
Really?
A little bit of trivia there.
Which guy was on the radio?
James Doohan. James Doohan.
The guy who played Scotty.
Yeah.
Oh,
Scotty.
When they took over the radio station?
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
And actually, one of
but the kid never got his piece of the action. That really bothered me.
Yeah, it would bother me too, because I kept expecting them to come back to that at the end of the episode, and then they just kind of ran out of time. Or I get
they just didn't give the kid his piece of the action. You know, he did his job.
That's what the episode is called. You think that would be the one thing they would have circled back to, but they didn't do that.
No, I was quite upset about that.
It's a good point. Yeah, and I looked up some of the notes on this episode that it was originally called President Capone. That was sort of like the original sort of premise, the idea of like a world run by gangsters. And there's even a line in this episode where they said that I guess the Chicago mobsters of the 20s nearly did take over Chicago. They nearly did I don't know how true that is, but that's what we're told in this episode. And
but I think if you say it's the 20s, I think it's got to be later than that. And the reason why is that the dresses, if you remember when they first got there they beamed down, there was all kinds of girls walking by in really short skirts and dresses. So it kind of looked like it was a merge of like the 60s with the 30s. It was, there's a little bit of question mark there on some of those dresses.
Are you saying that a lady in the 30s wouldn't have worn such a short dress? Is that?
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think they wore them that short.
We also have to remember, though, that this is a planet that has been based on a work of, a history book from Earth.
Can we talk about that book for a second?
We've taken some elements of that and taken them out of context. So with that,
and it's worth like just restating what the whole premise of this whole episode is, right? So the idea was that a Starfleet ship, or at least an Earth ship, 100 years before this, came by this planet, found this people who were in like a pre-industrial state. I guess there was no like prime directive yet. There was no non-interference. So they would have been like, I guess like they would have been the equivalent of what, the 1800s to us, right? Like sort of like just kind of getting things going in terms of industrialization. They left behind a couple of books, notably this one about the gangsters of the 1920s. And then they based their entire society over the next 100 years on this book that they left behind. So the whole episode is them trying to clean up that contamination. That's what Kirk sort of takes it upon himself to try to right the wrong that was sort of done to these people.
Yes.
Does he?
Kind of similar to that Next Gen episode of with the casino on the planet where it's only just the casino.
Yeah.
And it's a manifestation.
Yeah.
Royale, I think it was, or something.
Right. Because they had found that book. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And had based that whole thing on it. Yeah.
Does he really try to fix it? I feel like Kirk is just having fun.
No.
I think Kirk's having fun the majority of this episode, guys. Like he's yucking it up. The whole second half of the episode, he's in Disneyland.
Yeah, to be somebody who could be on set watching Shatner do this would have been just phenomenal, I'm sure. Yeah. Shatner is totally in his over element, it's
right.
It's amazing.
So Captain Kirk loved gangster stuff, gangster culture of the 1920s, and was just waiting for a chance to sort of break this out on a mission. Is that what this is going on?
It wouldn't shock me.
Because I like the part where they stole the suits from the two gangsters to go over and put the bag on.
And they fit so well too.
And they fit perfectly.
Which is always amazing when you have a double-breasted suit and it's just tailored nicely for two individuals. You know.
I have a question about that. Are they putting on the underwear? Do Starfleet officers, are they keeping their own underwear, or are they putting on the gangsters' underwear?
I'm telling you right now, if I had to put money on it, I would say totally Kirk freeballs it.
Yeah, like
100%.
Like
100%.
I do want to
that
touch
guy is
on
ready
those
for.
guys.
He's ready for every green one.
And I don't think Vulcans have balls, so like they have different things. It's different.
Kirk was saying, "Get out of the clothes."
It was probably totally commando for sure.
Yeah.
I'm putting the bag on you.
Literally.
Yeah, he put the bag on them.
Okay, and also you know how the book was? They say it was published in 1992.
Yeah.
Why 1992?
Seems random.
I don't know. It's a cool throwback.
They could have said like published in 1967, which is when they filmed this episode.
It had to be.
Had to be 19.
It had to be like a more modern thing, you know.
Right.
Well, when was this episode actually made? Was it made in 92?
No, it was 1960. It was filmed in 1967 and released in 1968. But
yeah, January. Yeah,
it was filmed during the golden era of television when all the best shows were filmed and brought to people around the world.
Of course,
like the Beverly Hillbillies, Gilligan's Island, Get Smart, Hogan's Heroes. I can go on, but that's when all the best shows were ever created. Just like Jeff likes the old Beatles. All the best music was in the 60s.
Oh, that I would argue.
All the best TV shows. It was just.
All these points sound like every argument I've ever had with these two. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's definitely a Mater thing.
Right. About that guy, that they steal those guys' suits, right? I don't think they ever get them back. Right. No. And later on, there's this fight where he brings in all those bosses, right? And they're all sitting there. And if you listen, the guy he took the suit from, you can literally hear him saying, because they're all arguing with each other, and you literally hear him saying, "I want my pants." Listen. I want my pants.
Can't hear that, Dave.
We didn't hear anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't hear that. He did say that?
I'll take your word for it, though.
Yeah.
He goes, "I want my pants. I want my pants."
Like he actually said that during the fight scene?
Yeah. He's just like,
that's amazing.
He's like, "Oh yeah, and I want pants." That's what he says.
Everybody's getting the ass kicked, and he's just like, "I want my pants back."
He was sitting there in his long underwear, right? And McCoy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And McCoy had the gun on him.
True. Yeah. McCoy's left to guard those guys for over an hour.
Yes, he did.
And, I don't think that, but he didn't get to have any fun. Literally, like McCoy just stood there the whole time.
Yeah, he didn't know.
He
actually got the guy took this gun from him as easy as pie.
Wow, it's McCoy.
Yeah. By the way, not a single one of those Thompson machine guns was fired except for in the street, and then that's when they fired the phaser to stun everybody in the street. Also, that is the only time in the original series history that the ship shot phasers to stun. Every other time was to destroy.
Which that's the one thing that was off-putting for me. For sure. Oh, we're getting comments here.
They had to be careful. They didn't want to kill them after they already ruined the planet with a bad mistake of leaving the book. Now, what mistake will happen because they left that communicator there? But Bones left his communicator.
It's funny you say that. So actually, Marvel Comics published a sequel story to this episode as a part of their Star Trek Unlimited series. The story was called A Piece of the Reaction, featuring the crew of the USS Enterprise E from Star Trek First Contact, returning to the planet to discover that its society had in fact gone on to model itself after 23rd century Starfleet, thanks to the communicator McCoy left behind. The planet is now led by a tough kid Kirk and Spock met in the street, who wishes to hijack the Enterprise E and finally gain command of a starship, just like his idol, James T. Kirk.
Wow.
So that little guy who never got his piece of the action,
that's right.
He wants his piece of the action now.
Now he wants a piece of the reaction.
Live a lot longer, right? They live a lot longer on that planet because remember when Kirk said the ship was lost there, it wasn't that long ago, and he said it was like 100 years ago.
That's right.
So their years are a lot shorter than our years. You
get the impression that at least they age quicker. Or that, a year is quicker there than it would be with us. Yeah, because he's like, it was like 100 years ago. And And Kirk's like, it was like 5 years ago. What are you talking about? You know, that kind of thing or whatever.
Is that?
I think he said a year. Yeah, it was right at the beginning of the episode.
Right at the beginning, yeah.
Well, no, they said no. The confusion is that it took a long time for the Horizon, which was the ship that originally came, for their message to reach the Federation. So the Federation had no idea that they'd even contacted this planet at all.
Oh, that's right. And they said, "Oh, well, you're using radio or whatever."
They were using radio, so the message didn't. And then the ship that visited the Horizon, it was destroyed after they visited that planet, so they never reported back. So that's why this situation exists.
I gotta stop reading these comments.
Okay, well, Jane's saying Vulcans have sex with their hands, so they do not have balls. I don't know about that one, Jane.
You know what? I'm with Jane on this one.
I see. That was a good pickup on my part. I mentioned that.
Yeah, exactly. But
there are balls in their hands.
Beth Mater, another Mater, coincidental, I think. We have a gangster running a government here. This is, ultimately what
I think we're getting political now on this.
Yeah, this is
well, since we're having a show about gangsters, we thought she'd throw that in. I guess it makes sense.
It's unbelievable. The best episode of Star Trek ever. Lots of people are saying that it's the best episode.
It's a very powerful episode. Very powerful.
Very powerful episode.
I don't know what episode you guys watched. I would go with powerful.
Powerful, yes.
Tremendous. It was tremendous.
It was tremendous.
It wasn't. You know what? It was entertaining, and that's really what it's all about. It was
tremendous for him to work out 40% of the cut, which is, and that's why Spock at the end he said, "I just want to know what you're going to do with 40% of our cut that we get every year."
How's a starship going to come every year to collect our cut?
Kirk doesn't really give him an answer either. Also, at the end of the episode, basically Kirk turns the Federation into the mob. What's he doing?
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah, he had to get control. That's the only way those guys understand reasoning is you got to be like them. I know we used to play a few guys in ball hockey, and it was the same way. You had to be like that. The only thing they understand is force, to beat force. So they don't understand reasoning. If you don't have any guns, they're not going to bother you with you. So you got to have the gun on them.
It's an interesting hypothesis.
Yes. But, it's a great episode. Great episode.
It was fun watching. There are way more boring episodes than this episode of original series.
For sure.
It made me laugh just how many times, like I said, like Kirk's punching a guy, Spock's doing a nerve pinch, Kirk's calling up Scotty to get him out of a situation. It happens over and over and over in this episode. And I just wish they had spent a little bit more time writing, like full circling it with like the kid in the street that helps them. I think that would have been a better way to go. They should have just taken a few more minutes to
well,
they didn't honor that deal with the kid, right?
That's what I mean.
Imagine if like the last shot in that TV show, or like that episode was, that kid, rising up the ranks or something.
They should have.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, they should have did that. I would have taken, like I said, like the Marvel Comics sequel that was the Enterprise E of would have been a Picard. I would have taken that over Nemesis or Insurrection.
Well, who wouldn't?
I mean, exactly. So
I could make a Star Trek episode out of popsicle stick. It would be better than fucking Nemesis.
Yeah. Nemesis is god awful. I mean, Tom Hardy almost killed himself because Nemesis.
I don't blame him.
Bad.
Honestly,
and practical information do not seem to apply here. You admit that?
We got to
deny the facts would be illogical, Doctor.
I had to switch it.
I'm not.
That's why you haven't.
Now we can't hear him.
10 minutes, Dave?
Spock actually went on several hunches in this episode too. He went on several hunches and he played along.
A heater, huh?
Which is not normal for Spock. He took a hunch a few times.
Jody, what have you done?
I'll tell you right now. Absolute 100% truth. I told him not to put a soundboard in this show.
But why?
100%. Because it's stupid. And it sounds like gas.
Is that what Bob McGowan used to do to his guests?
I don't think so.
He had a machine gun that if he didn't like you, he'd machine gun you.
Oh, really? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Did he do that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That was in the earlier years, not lately. But in
Right.
the earlier years, if you said something that he didn't like, he would just machine gun you, and that would be the end of you.
Well, that's appropriate for this episode of Star Trek with all the machine gun
Yes,
true.
that's going on.
It's true.
Yeah, put the bag on him.
I can't get my soundboard going, I guess. I can't figure that out. Right.
That's okay. We
Why don't you ask
don't
a
need
question,
it.
Dave? Or like,
I worked on it for 2 hours before this show, guys.
And?
Well, it's I can get it.
And that's 2 hours he's never going to get back.
The world.
That's what that is.
The world will shed a tear for those 2 hours.
So
spent doing something so much more productive.
it's true.
I was doing it for you guys. I was doing it for you.
So did anybody notice Oxnix playing pool when Kirk just got there?
Yes.
He had absolutely no idea what he was doing.
That's true.
As a matter of fact, he barely hit some of the balls. He went to hit the ball, and he almost missed it with the cue. He was shooting the 2-ball into the corner and almost missed it. He never came close to making a shot.
He's shooting the purple striped ball.
Yeah. Like what was that all about?
Well, I guess you could interpret it like because he's going based on a game that was referenced in this history book that was left. Maybe he doesn't know how to play it because they never explained it. They just showed pictures of it or something like that. So maybe they've just created it based on that.
Yeah, actually,
I think honestly, I think this
playing right. He started out playing right.
But you know what?
The
real star of this entire episode, though, honestly, 100%, and I'm gonna have to show you this one, is it has to be Kirk's hat.
Yes,
I didn't realize it.
The blue ribbon going around Kirk's hat.
No, look closely. That thing has shag on it.
Yeah, he looks like Kramer from Seinfeld when he became a pimp.
It's a fuzzy hat. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Bring it up. Make it big, Dave.
Oh, sure.
Make it big for a second here, so everybody can see this. There we go. Look at how fuzzy that hat is. That's amazing. and let's be honest though, Leonard Nimoy, if you ran into him in the street in the 20s, you would definitely walk the other way. He looks badass.
He actually looks like he belongs as a gangster.
He looks like Frank Nitti in The Untouchables.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, a little bit like Nitti.
Yeah, I see it.
But isn't that hat amazing? That hat is amazing.
Shatner doesn't belong at all, even though he so badly wants to. Shatner is like loving this episode.
This is candy for him. He can overact to hell, and it still looks amazing.
Yeah, he overacts and it actually fits, and he's just like, you could just see him like every time like he's talking to Bones and Spock, he's like just gearing himself up to go in there and just give it his best Chicago accent, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he never really got a girl in this one. You know, he got his shoulders rubbed. That was about it.
Yeah.
That was the only girl he got. He usually gets a.
Realistically, though, if you actually look at the entire history of the original series, he really wasn't with that many women. When you think about it,
over the years, I would think. Well, how many episodes total were there, Dave?
76.
76. So yeah, I'd say
he probably only had like 4 of them.
Right.
He rubbed shoulders with a lot of them, but he didn't sleep with them.
Well, no, I don't mean that. I mean just kissing them.
I don't know if it's this episode. Actually, I think it's the episode that comes right after this, which is the immunity syndrome, which is the one that followed this one. But Kirk definitely looked at a girl's butt on the bridge.
Is that the one where the girl went in his body?
No, it's the one where they're fighting the big space amoeba.
Oh,
okay. I remember that.
And like it's they're basically trying to avoid death.
I was surprised that this was it. Who was it? Ted that picked this episode?
It was. Yeah. So why this?
I was just surprised this was. Yeah, I want to know why, Ted. Why was this the first episode you decided to talk about?
Because I think that it leads back to Earth. It's not like a completely foreign place that that you would go to, like where it was be complete like alien beings. These guys were aliens. They were, what were they called? The Iosians.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
The Iosians, they were like humans. The Iosians were very much human.
Well, there's a lot of alien species, especially in the original series, but not exclusively. It's in all the Star Treks, where they just look like humans. Like they're just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's certain ones that don't. The one who looked like a rock, and the one who looked like the old man
Yes.
with the robes, and the baby, and the Hootie Seeley. There's all kinds of strange looking dudes in Star Trek.
Well, yeah, like, and that's the thing about that. Sometimes they just got lazy, and they're like, these people just look like humans, and I guess that's like the standard alien of the galaxy in the Star Trek universe, because more species.
If you think about the next gen episode where they're what was it called, the Chase or something like that, where it was the where they're all trying to fight to find this planet, and then they end up talking to the being that's like mostly like just kind of like bald. I can't remember the name of it, but it's where Picard's trying to get. He's trying to figure out how to get to this this planet, and the Klingons are trying to find it too, and so are the Romulans and all that. And they actually explain that. They're like basically like, well, y'all basically come from the same thing. Oh,
Did you see that guy?
He's the guy from the end credits.
Yes, but
he's always the last credits.
He's in one of the shows.
He's not even a real alien.
No, he was a head. Remember who had him? The baby. Remember the little baby?
Clint Howard.
Who?
The brother of Ron Howard.
Yeah, is that who that was?
Yeah.
And
really?
He looks a little bit like Mitch McConnell, though.
So listen to this, guys. Gene Roddenberry, in his original 1964 Star Trek pitch, included a one-sentence idea for an episode titled President Capone, in which the Enterprise Capone crew landed on a planet in a parallel version of the 1920 Chicago, where Al Capone is a president. George Clayton Johnson later developed the idea into an outline thread, The Syndicate, which later became a treatment titled Chicago 2. The concept was abandoned, and then they found the treatment and worked on a script, and that's what became this episode. So, like, this is like, it's kind of interesting that, like, this is the original idea that Roddenberry came to the executives to pitch Star Trek, was this episode.
Well, I can see why. They were probably making a lot of shows that centered around the 20s and 30s around this time, and so they just had the sets, they had the costumes. It's easy to set an episode repurposing all that stuff, right? I think they did a lot of that.
If I'm not mistaken, this is a set that has been around for a while. This was used in a lot of things.
Is this not the same set that like Dick Tracy has and other movies and TV shows?
It's very familiar, especially the building that when they're talking to the kid and they're on the front of the car, and there's a building to the left of them. That building is so familiar to me. It's just there's something about it. It must be a set that they've reused, and they still have used it even in more modern TV shows.
This looks like How I Met Your Mother, like where like they have like that fake New York set in LA. I think I think that they probably have been using.
They probably modernized it a bit since, but
years,
Right. So
I think that game Fizbin looks like it would be a lot of fun if you could play that and figure out how to play it.
It's completely made up. He improvised it on the spot. Everything about it was complete bullshit.
Well, no kidding. Like, would have been that hard to figure it out, but only if it's at night.
Yeah,
only on Tuesday.
And if you could that, then
on Tuesday.
You know what the funny thing is, though? There's probably some nerd out there, and I say that respectfully. There's probably some nerd out there that probably has actually made an actual rule book for this game. Like, they've probably completely figured it out and said, okay, well, we'll do it this way, and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think they have dictionaries for Klingon and Romulan.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah. Well, Klingon for sure. I don't know about Romulan, but Klingon definitely.
It says here, Kirk makes up the rules of the card game Fizbin as he goes along. William Shatner ad-libbed the rules, so his pauses to think and the other actors' confusion are all genuine. In Dane Duane's novel, The Empty Chair, McCoy invents a new version, Tournament Fizbin, with the help of Kirk, Sulu, Scotty, and a great deal of Romulan ale.
In another episode?
No, in a novel that this lady wrote.
Oh, a novel.
Just so much linking media when it comes to Star Trek. It's amazing.
Yeah, like so. What's your favorite original series episode, Jody? Is it this one?
It's not this one. No. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of the original series. Like I've seen them all, and that's fine. But I don't even know if I want to even say there's a favorite. It's not my favorite series for sure. And it was interesting to be part of this, quite honestly, because I'm definitely the odd man out when it comes to this, I'm sure. But I don't really know. I obviously the Gorn episode I'm very fond of. I do love that episode. It's just so yeah. Obviously the Tribbles one as well. That's always a classic fun one. But yeah, I don't really have a favorite. I don't think. Like there's definitely some I despise. But I can't say I really have a favorite.
Harry Mudd's Women.
Harry Mudd's Women.
It's definitely not that.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Oh.
So, Dad, you think it's like Trouble with Tribbles, or what's your favorite episode of the original series?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't necessarily. I watched a good one today, which was a girl who took over Captain Kirk's body, and he put her body in him, if you will, and she took over the ship.
So Shatner got to act like a chick?
So yes. Well, he was unconscious most of the way, but the girl was trying to run the ship. But you know how when Kirk says Kirk to McCoy or whatever, right? She said Captain Kirk to McCoy, so you knew right away she was a phony, right? Because she said things like that he would never say.
That is some clever writing.
Yes, clever detective work on my part, mind you. But,
for sure.
But you know, there's a lot of the ones, like I said that before, that he went back to Earth, like the German one where it was Nazi Germany.
I love that one.
That was a good one.
that one.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Yeah,
that was a good one. And then
I do remember that one.
Yeah, and then the one with the one with the guy that had the cat.
Oh, Cat Spa, the one with it's like a Halloween episode, right?
No, it's the guy who has the cat, and he's trying to take over the space ship back on Earth. With the girl who's in it is very famous. She works in the office.
I don't even remember this episode.
Me either. We should cover.
Yes, it's called Friday.
Which season was it in?
I don't know, but it was there was a cat in it, and
Balance of Terror with the Romulans.
That's what Dan Harone says. Dan Harone's jumped in here to.
Dan Harone, yes, and Beth Mader, Edith Keeler Must Die. That's a good one. That is really good.
Is this what their favorite episomes are? We can
assume. Yeah, they're chiming in.
I think they're chiming in, and that's fine. We want audience participation.
I would. My favorite would probably be
Terry Gar.
What is the name of that episode, Jared?
Terry Gar was in Star Trek?
Yes.
No way.
She was an office worker, and she's very young. And that was. She would have to be, yeah. They had a cat that was in it, who was like this black cat, and a guy named. What was the guy's name? This up now. He was an agent.
Gary Seven.
Gary Seven. That's it. Gary Seven.
Yeah.
And his whole thing was to steal he had two people sent to Earth, and they were both killed in a car accident, and what they had to do wasn't done.
So that's a season 2 episode 26, and it's called Assignment Earth.
What about
Assignment Earth? And Gary Seven had to go to Earth to get this spaceship and steal something on the spaceship, or do something to the spaceship, so he could he could save his people whatever planet they were from.
What about the City on the Edge of Forever? That's highly touted as one of the best episodes of the original series.
I think it's probably one of the best episodes. Just from
that is a good episode.
It's one of the best stories.
What was the story on that one?
That's the one with Edith Keeler. That's with it's called The City on the Edge of Forever.
Oh yeah, Edith Keeler Must Die. Yeah, that was one of the best ones. Yeah.
That's the one where they go back to like the 30s.
Yeah, I would reckon that was probably one of the best episodes for sure.
The assignment Earth one, that's the one where they go back to like 68.
And the cat.
So
was
it's like
alien.
The actual time that they're making the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the cat was an alien.
Cat was alien.
Yeah.
That's right.
Caused all kinds of problems.
So, audience, if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in.
We'll throw them up, and we'll answer your questions. What we thought about this episode? Okay, piece of the action.
We're gonna have to
give you a piece of the action here in this podcast.
Now you get the piece of the action. Only 40% though. But yeah, we'll have to investigate one of those episodes. This is actually, if anything, this is done because I haven't touched the original series in probably 5 to 10 years now. I haven't gone back and rewatched them. So if anything,
this is the only series I watch. I don't watch the other series.
You don't watch any of the Next Gen or anything like that?
No, I really don't. I can't
enjoy
get into them. I got 76 episodes that I'm very happy to watch.
This is great.
And, fair enough.
Mom is asking Jane a question, although Jane's not on the podcast.
Okay, that's not how this works, guys.
Jane, what's the cat's name?
If you want to have discussions between yourselves, feel free, but what about Spock's Brains episode? I remember that. That was a good episode.
That's a terrible episode.
That was a great episode.
That's one of the worst of them all.
I know, and it's just so fun.
Also,
what's the name of it? I remember the name of that episode now.
It's called Spock's Brain.
Is it just called Spock's Brain?
It is literally just called Spock's Brain. Yeah.
One that was good was the Menagerie.
The Menagerie, which was the one where they used the unaired pilot that had Christopher Pike. Right?
Yes, Menagerie.
Right.
It was a two-part. It was a two-part episode.
I think it's the only two-part episode of the original series. Right?
It might have been, yeah.
I'd say that the original series is definitely the one I rewatched the least. Although there are some great episodes. I think that this is actually one of my more preferred episodes of the original series, mostly because even though you can criticize that Kirk and Spock and the rest of them are not doing so well with that whole non-interference protocol, but they're kind of coming at it from a perspective of trying to fix it. Now, your mileage may vary.
They didn't cause the problem, though.
They didn't cause the problem, so Kirk's just trying to fix it.
They're trying to fix the problem that was left by others.
Well, I don't even know if he's really trying to fix it. I think the intent was, but once he got down there, he's like, "But I can wear a gangster outfit and get 40%, so I'm not going to bother doing that now." So
we got a question from the panel here. Sorry, that was the wrong one. From Kate Harone. What's your favorite news show? Is it Discovery or Picard?
I don't even know if we need to ask this question, quite honestly.
We go there right now. Dad can't answer. He doesn't watch. So, Picard.
I won't comment.
Yeah, you'll go neutral.
Better, but Picard's more disappointing because you expected so much more.
I didn't expect much more. But I definitely enjoy Picard over Discovery. I've actually gone back because I haven't even finished the entire first season of Discovery yet. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to give it a quick try. So I'm now on episode, I think, 6 or 7, and it's not getting any better for me. So
it's going to steadily go down.
Yeah. So to answer Kate's question, I would definitely say Picard. I wouldn't. I just do not enjoy Discovery, even though I'm still trying to give it a second chance. But it's not. It's a hard watch for me.
Do you know what? I was thinking during watching this episode tonight that Star Trek has really lost its way as far as the way they wrote their show and the formula of just Star Trek for me is about problem solving. And it's they're usually bottle episodes where we fling our characters into a situation that they have to find their way out of. Nowadays, what they're trying to do is they're turning Star Trek into something that's more of an adventure show.
It's serialized, right? That's what
serialized as well. Yeah.
It's a paycheck now.
It's a paycheck now, and it's like almost like they're like, we know we're gonna get Star Trek fans anyway. So we might as well try and get the people that don't like Star Trek to come watch Star Trek.
Well, Discovery is to sell CBS. That's all it really is. And obviously Picard's a continuation of that, right? So I think they lost their way once they decided to start making it so I have to watch 4 episodes in a row to be able to understand what's going on. It used to be, remember, back in Next Gen, well, even if we start at the original series, was there any 2-part episodes of the original series?
One. There was Menagerie. That's it.
Yeah, just that one,
No,
right?
there's another one. The Spock's court martial, apparently.
Was it 2? Well, that's the menagerie, right?
That's part of the menagerie, yeah.
Oh, is that the menagerie? Okay.
Yeah. And then if you look at Star Trek, if you look at Next Gen only had 2 episodes maximum. Okay, you had stuff that obviously carried over, like obviously, Picard being Locutus, and later on, there was callbacks to that. But in reality, you had a 1 or 2 episode, 1 or 2 episodes of a storyline, and that was it. And then you go on to the next adventure, and you were done.
Most of the Next Generation 2-parters, and they had a few. They were usually like cliffhangers on a season, right? They would kind of be the bridge between the 4th and the 5th season.
But even if you look at the series that I'm not allowed to talk about, which is Enterprise, which I have different feelings than everybody else here does. Maybe not Ted, but everybody else. It's even then they started doing some of that where you have a 3-episode kind of run where, it wasn't officially a continuation, but it definitely was. You know what I mean?
The show that I think did the best at not only doing serialized, but also doing episodic was Deep Space Nine, because you can throw on any Deep Space Nine episode, and there's an episode, like I watched one the other night where it's, Jake and Bashir get thrown onto this alien planet. It's during the Klingon War. And it's all about, so like what's going on in the bigger part of the story. But at the same time, we're focusing on Jake Sisko and Bashir having to deal with this problem during a bigger
because they're in the middle of that Klingon War, and it's sort of a smaller story that's part of that.
That's right.
And I think I think watching this episode, and I think the original series and Next Generation, all these other shows that have come before it, it's interesting that we've kind of brought up Discovery and Picard, which are the 2 modern shows, and how they kind of don't feel like Star Trek in a lot of ways. I think it's mostly this. I think like when you look back at this episode, that you can have a lighter, funner episode. Like there are stakes to this. The Kirk and Spock are trying to kind of save a civilization, kind of trying to right this wrong that humans had done to these people 100 years earlier. And yet it's got a lot of levity. It's got some tongue-in-cheekness to it. We see one person die in this episode tonight. It's one of Bella's henchmen.
Well, and really, you don't even see anything. You see, like he's on top of a bunch of boxes. Right. Like the body's just sitting there. Like you can't even really see the body. All you see is his feet, really, and part of his legs, maybe. But I think getting back to that point though, like has it lost its way? Yeah, I think it has, because realistically, if you look at all the other series, and you have, for instance, fans like Ted who enjoy the original series, but I'm sure he enjoys it because it's a new adventure every time you watch it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Whereas now it's like season. Discovery, like I went to like what I thought was the episode that I stopped watching Discovery on, and I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I'm gonna have to go back again. So I had to go all the way back to the beginning and watch that terrible Klingon shit for 2 episodes. And it was garbage. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm gonna have to rewatch Picard again, because I did enjoy Picard for there's
Klingon. What are you how dare you talk bad about the Klingons?
That's not even the real. That's the real Klingon.
That's Gowron. Wolf. You talk.
Oh my God, I don't know how you deal with these 2, Ted. But the
what's a really good episode was the time Kirk took the ship into Romulan territory and stole the cloaking device. You remember that one?
Yes, it's called.
I briefly remember
the Enterprise Incident. It's called.
Yes, and they were surrounded by Romulan ships, and Kirk went onto the ship to steal the cloaking device with Spock, and Spock had a romantic relationship with the Romulan leader, and then Kirk snuck in and stole the cloaking device. And then Spock stood trial and for treason, right. And but then they Scotty got the cloaking device going, and they got out of there.
On Heather's favorite part was the Next Generation, and yes, she spoke in the first person. So
I don't know who Aunt Heather is, but Good on you. It is a great series.
It's on Heather, Jody.
Yeah, she used to watch that when I was going out there years ago.
Yeah, yes.
She used to be always watching that. Starsky and Hutch. That's what she used to like.
I'm really surprised, Ted, that you don't watch Next Gen though.
It's there's enough of 76 episodes there. I got it.
176.
Jody, it took us 20 years just to get him to watch Seinfeld. Just think about it.
Wow. I'm sorry because I hate Seinfeld, but anyway.
Well, the early episodes of Seinfeld, I watched a few of them today because they just finished the episode. Now they're starting the new ones again from episode 1.
Yeah.
Probably the episode 1 to 10 or 20. They're awful.
Yeah,
all they are is Jerry Seinfeld telling jokes.
I'm not a fan of the show at all. It
got better
I never understood what it was. I get it, and yes, there are some really funny bits in that series, but it's to me, it's just it's I don't need an entire series with whiny rich people.
It's a series about nothing.
Well, no, it really is about something. It's about a bunch of whiny people. Like they whine and bitch all fucking episode. It's like
terrible people. That's why it's funny.
Yeah.
I don't need to see terrible people. There's enough terrible people in this world to begin with. I don't need to watch a fucking series about it. Like if I want to watch a terrible episode, terrible people, and I would watch a history documentary on World War II. Like it's to me, I never got the gist of it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing today. You can watch anything you want, anytime you want. Just go click on
This is true though, and you know what? If Seinfeld's your thing, that's great. It's just like you with original series. I definitely wouldn't watch the original series over Next Gen. But you know what? That's your game, and that's
what I grew up with. It's like the hockey.
Well, and I grew up with Next Gen, so that makes sense.
I prefer the old hockey cards from the '60s rather than the ones from the '90s and 2000s because
I'm with you on that.
The old hockey cards are classics.
Yeah.
I have a distinct memory though of you, Dad, introducing me to Next Generation when it debuted, and that I would have only been 4 years old when that came out.
Yeah.
So,
I watched it. I watched them in the beginning.
The premiere, right? And I remember I watched a little bit of.
I used to watch it when Data was on it and those guys.
Yeah.
I watched those with you guys.
Right. And so I remember thinking as a little kid, I was like, you explained it to me. I was like, okay, but it's the Next Generation. So I thought like the captain should be like Kirk's kid and the first officer should be Spock's kid, etc. And
thank God it wasn't. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, but for a 4-year-old, that's what you're kind of expecting it to be.
I was more than 4 when I started watching that show, but anyway,
5 years older than me, right? Or 4.
I was 10 when did Star Trek start? 66 or 68?
66.
67.
67.
Yeah, so I was only 8 years old when that came out, right? So
that would have been a perfect time, right?
8 to 10. So it was very impressionable. And it was like the only show really like that other than Lost in Space. I don't know if you remember that show.
Oh, I've watched every episode of Lost in Space.
Lost in Space with Dr. Smith.
Oh, for sure.
He always used to do something stupid to get them in trouble.
Oh, there's Beth giving you guff.
Get stuck in 1960. Get Smart, Hogan's Heroes, Beverly Hillbillies.
Hogan's Heroes is still one of my favorite television. Shows.
Well, yeah.
Hogan Heroes is still one of my favorite series.
I get why watching this original Star Trek or watching like Adam West Batman or those shows, they still have like a fun aspect that never has been replicated.
I think the term we use now is campy. But
campy, and sort of, and like just the way they did the makeup and the way that shows were done, the music.
Oh yeah, they didn't have the technology they have today to do the finishing and editing. Like you can probably do more editing than what they can.
You had to use your imagination.
But even TV shows that were made 10 years later from this were nothing like this. But
that's progression, right? That's how things happen
with their shows and their characters in the 60s. They really kind of like chewed the scenery up. This episode's a perfect example of that. Like,
they used the set. The set was a character.
The set was a character. The time period was a character. The lingo was very much a character. It's like, I don't have to say the word alley in this episode, but it's a lot.
Shatner's overuse of the characters, but it's great.
And that's what people like watching when the actors or the characters are having fun. When it gets too serious, like Star Trek Discovery, people are going, okay, brutal. This is too much. I've had enough.
Right. And even Next Gen and Deep Space Nine, they had fun with it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, don't watch Discovery, Ted. It'll kill you.
Speaking of which, on Monday nights, I will now, we're doing a rewatch of Deep Space Nine. I'll be hosting a complete recap of every episode, starting from the beginning. We're going to slug through season 1 with the no-go team.
Right. What night are we doing
one of these a week?
Monday nights?
Monday nights.
Isn't that when we do Westworld?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Tuesday nights.
Yeah. One every night.
Westworld's going to end, though, at some point, Dave. I mean...
we only got 4 episodes left on Westworld.
Just like CNN, you're on every night.
Yeah, really, eh?
All right, we'll start with Tuesday nights, then we'll go back to Monday nights once.
It's the Mater Media Empire.
Got the same amount of guests as Jake Tapper.
Jake Tapper, what a hack!
Well,
I like this question. Yeah. No, I love this question.
Try watching the Empire episodes in their correct timeline yet, from Discovery, the original series. Deep Space Nine. Well, Enterprise would come before any of that.
First.
Is Discovery before the original series?
Yes.
It goes Discovery, then Enterprise, and then the original series.
No, it would go Enterprise
first.
Enterprise.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry,
Enterprise, Discovery, original series, then
I misspoke.
TNG, then DS9.
Discovery got graphics just like the old series, only worse.
No, that's one of the biggest things that I hate about that damn show. Everything's up to date. It looks like you're watching a J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie.
Yeah, they kind of retconned everything, even the look of like the bridge of the Enterprise.
Everything looks up to date, and it's just brutal. I wish they went the other way. See, that's one thing I liked about Enterprise. Enterprise was the Bakula series, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but I'm still going to.
Actually, compared to Discovery, it looks like a gem. So
don't worry. Well, I'm not here to tell you it doesn't exist.
It does exist.
I'm sorry. There
was 4 seasons. But one of the things that I liked about it, Ted, and I don't know if you're familiar with the series, but Enterprise basically talks about essentially the first Enterprise going out. Okay.
100 years before Kirk.
100 years before
the Captain Christopher Pike?
No, it's way before that.
Archer, played by what's his name? Scott Bakula, yeah.
Scott Bakula
from Quantum Leap, yeah. But the thing that I liked about that show was that when they show the ship, like they don't have fancy touch screens. They got these like VGA monitors with little buttons on the side that they have to use for the interface, and it's very much kind of like in the original series vein. Where not everything's all fancy splashy. They only just got transporters working, and they're like, I'm not going to fucking use these things.
Yeah, and they only use it for inanimate stuff.
Yeah, they're only using it for stuff that isn't alive, and obviously that's a plot thing that happens later on, but stuff like that. So they've kind of made it where like there's one scene where Archer's talking about like somebody's pissed off because there's a lot of noise on the ship. And he's like, well, those are the deck plates, what do you want? Like they make noise, right? Whereas obviously, they perfected those things later on in life, but it's all those little tiny things.
Has anybody in any of the Star Trek series, is a question for all of you. Has anybody ever seen a bathroom on the Starship Enterprise?
No.
Actually on Enterprise they did. Enterprise they had a bathroom. Yep.
Did they? I've never seen one on the original series.
You don't No, it was
You never even walked by one.
There's a reason for that.
Why is that?
You're also talking 60s television. They wouldn't show pregnant women either. Like it's.
Star Trek Enterprise turned a man pregnant. They did the Arnold Schwarzenegger twins thing. They made Commander Charles Tucker. They made him pregnant in that show. Just. These are a few reasons why that show is kind of eye-rolled a bit, but I do agree with you, Jody. There are things in that show that stay true to what Star Trek is.
Yes.
Whereas
there's a lot that it doesn't, but
I will watch an episode of Enterprise any day over Discovery, or even Picard right now is kind of like
Picard's a different thing.
Picard's
Picard to me isn't really Star Trek. It's more it's the afterlife of Picard.
It's a continuation of the movies.
And,
you know,
and that's part of the problem because literally they're continuing from Nemesis.
Right. So I'd say Picard feels like, Picard's a little different because it's like a sequel.
Jane's got a good point. Troy was in a bathtub during that the episode where they're all
Troy was in a
de-evolving.
bathtub. There's an episode of Voyager where B'Elanna Torres is in the shower. There have been exceptions, but generally that's been the ongoing joke.
Sonic showers, right?
Sonic showers, yeah.
Sonic.
So, but the ongoing joke is, the bathrooms are seldom shown,
and very, very rarely you see them eating either. But there was a few times where they clicked that computer and food would come.
Yeah, we got a question here from Dan Harone. He's asking, "What do you think of Pike's Enterprise on the show Discovery?" I can't
tell you.
I can tackle this one. You know what? It's interesting because I am okay with them retconning to an extent, right? Like saying that things can be a little bit more modern when they show us these sort of like these 23rd century ships, the Kirk era and the Pike era of ships. But I just don't understand why it's necessary, in particular because I think of the episode Trials and Tribulations, which was when Deep Space Nine went back to the Trouble with Tribbles episode with Kirk. And they were very faithful to the Kirk era. And honestly, I don't understand why it needs to be retconned so much. I get the special effects because they did the special effects on the original series many years ago. The version that is on Netflix now shows an Enterprise. It's remastered. It's new CGI. It doesn't look like it did when it first aired in the 60s. So I think you can update certain things, but stick to that original thing. And the reason I think you can stick to it is because the original series holds up, right? Why can't this ship in the 23rd century have like a 60s aesthetic? It doesn't. There's no reason it can't. And in the case,
think about the episode of Deep Space Nine, Trials and Tribulations, when they go back to that episode in the original series. I mean, that's one of the most enjoyable episodes of Deep Space Nine. Yeah. They have fun with it. Yeah, I don't like it. I mean, it's too. Stop it. Stop making everything look like an Apple like
you
store.
Can see here they've kind of kept the same architecture of that Enterprise bridge, but they've changed it a great deal. The uniform obviously is not the same. You can definitely see that.
That looks great though. I'm not familiar with the episode because this was like the end of second season. Right?
This is end of
second season. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've never even gotten there, but that looks great in my opinion. Like that's a great callback.
But that's not what the Enterprise bridge looks like.
No,
it does a bit. The chair looks right.
The chair looks right. Yeah.
That's about it. I mean,
this looks like the recreation in Next Gen where they when they find Scotty.
I'd have to disagree.
Looks kind of like it.
No,
a little bit.
No, because the one they used with Scotty was literally just
it was the actual set,
same set.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessary to say that the 60s that the original series didn't have that aesthetic, that's not how tricorders look, that's not how uniforms look, that's not how people did their hair. Like it's nonsense. I think a lot, I don't know. We have no women on the panel here, so I don't want to get too. I want to tread lightly, but like the uniforms, even in the original series, with all the women wearing the short skirt outfit. I don't know. I always liked that, but I guess we're not allowed to like that anymore.
I'll tell you right now, though, the first season of Next Gen, where they tried to do the same thing, but they got like guys in dresses.
And Troy and others, but
it's just disturbing. It's just so out of place. It's like, why bother?
In the more recent shows of Star Trek, instead of like showing short skirts, what they did was they put them in skin tight like uniforms. Like Kira wore a skin tight uniform 7.
Yeah.
So did Troy. Troy wore a V-neck.
T'Pol and Enterprise. Yeah.
All tight, skin tight stuff. Whereas in the original series, it was more short skirts.
Right.
They showed more legs.
Yeah. Well, I think I think you have the option to wear the pants if you want. But that's
so to answer Dan's question, I've never seen the episode, but from that screenshot, I like it.
Well, but
it doesn't look like it's
they
too
also
true,
changed the exterior of the ship. They changed the angle of where the pylons come out for the nacelles. They changed a whole bunch of aesthetics. For what reason? Like, you know, like
Oh, actually, I got a picture of that. Hold on.
Because the guys that make those shows, Dave, are don't really, they're not, they like Star Trek, but they're not true to Star Trek. They don't really honor the source material properly.
They're not a fan. They're a production company.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. They know they're a fan. I'm sure they loved all those episodes, but when they go to make their own creation, they can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Actually, I got it here. Let me see if I can bring it up.
They're not being lazy, you know.
No.
So it's
no, they just can't help themselves. They wanna make it their own image. And
yeah, that's it. There. Now you'd have to like. Obviously, it's shinier than what we're used to seeing the Enterprise as, but like if you put that next to the other, like the Enterprise we just watched in this episode, it's different.
Of course, yeah,
in a number of ways, and so they were kind of like, and that's what retconning is, right? Sometimes you can retcon something, meaning say, oh, it was always this way, it always looked this way, it's just because, you know, special effect or whatever.
We've gotten massive off base from the topic here, though, haven't we?
Well, we're answering questions, I guess, about how. I guess that the theme here has also been like, so looking back at this episode from the 1960s, from the original series, compared to like here we are, almost 60 years later. You know, looking at how Star Trek's evolved, I think that's sort of where this conversation has gone tonight.
Well, most people that are chiming in right now have not watched this episode like tonight, like we did. So they're, you know, they're gonna ask questions based off like what we're talking about, which is kind of the difference between what Star Trek was in the 60s and what it is now, or what it was 20 or 30 years ago.
Well, I think one thing that we need to definitely point out here is we have two generations on the panel right now. We have obviously Ted representing the slightly more mature generation. Oh, whatever. Well, come on.
You're a Gen Xer. I'm a millennial, so
I'm sorry. But anyway, you know, one thing we can all really, I'm sure we can all agree on, though, is it's an entertaining episode to watch. And though obviously it's aged, it's aged pretty well. Like it's still a fun episode to watch. I don't care what anybody says.
I will rewatch this. Like this is very rewatchable. I don't think every episode of the original series is rewatchable, but this is one of the ones that is.
That's true. Yeah,
there is a lot of episodes that are very hard to get through. Yeah, for sure. But that can be said about all the series.
Yeah, there are episodes of Next Gen where anytime
any episode with Alexander.
Yeah, and even Deep Space Nine has episodes with Alexander, and again,
it's a double.
I have to skip it. There's an episode where Alexander comes back for Jadzia and Worf's wedding.
Yep,
don't need it.
Yeah, and even if you look at like Voyager, pretty much any episode with Kes in it is a terrible episode for the most part, or where she's at least a main character, like she's on for more than 10 seconds. You know, so it's one of those things. Every series has terrible episodes that you don't want to rewatch, but it's those little tiny, you know, beacons of light and, you know, the little shit pile there that is what makes it fun. Like, and this is one of those fun episodes. Is it a good representation of the show? No, it's not a good representation of this series. But is it a fun episode? Oh, hell yeah. Like the entire time I was watching, I'm like, this is hilarious. This is great. Right. Even though I'm not a massive fan of the original series, but I am a fan of the characters and I am a fan of the show as a whole. But, you know, I think it's the one thing that you could really take away from all this is the fact that it's still a fun episode to watch. Like it stood the test of time. It's great.
Yep, and it's because the characters are having fun. The writing was pretty good. I mean, they could have did a bit better with the writing, because this episode goes around in circles quite a bit, where they're literally like I said before, going from room to room, punching gangsters out, and that's literally what the episode is. And then
it's literally them escaping from the gangsters one by one. Like they have to get out of this room, then they have to get out of this room, and then.
And the one thing we didn't even mention is one of those gangsters, which is not the first one that they come across. The second one, what's his name?
His name is Krakow.
Yeah, Krakow. Okay, that's he was played by Vic
Victor something.
Vic Tabak, which is he was on like later on he was in a lot of network television. Like he was.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, Gen Xer, because Jane also brought this up. I had no idea what she was talking about.
He was in not Rhoda, the Alice. Ellis?
No, Jane's watching, right? What was the show that this guy was on? It was in the late 70s, early 80s.
It was the diner one. He played Sal. Alice, that's the name of the damn show. Alice.
Alice, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Alice,
Sal.
yeah. And he was also on the Love Boat. He was on the Love Boat
in the movie Bullet with Steve McQueen.
Sure was. Like, this is Fantasy Island. He was on there too.
What the heck was Alice?
Alice
she was a waitress, right?
Waitress in a diner, and he played the cook.
Yeah, he was like the chef.
Alice was played by Linda Lavin.
Was it Linda Lavin?
It was Mel's Diner. Is that what it was on that show?
Mel's Diner, yeah.
Yeah, Mel's Diner, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was Mel. Yeah, he was Mel.
That show went for 9 seasons, by the way. Won 8 Golden Globes.
And there was some famous
202 episodes that season.
There was some famous line, "Kiss my grits." Is that a thing?
And here's the thing to tell. I don't know if it was that one. Was it that one? I can't remember.
Yeah, apparently that's what they're saying.
So according to IMDb, out of the 202 episodes, he was on 201 of them. Like, the man is a stallion when it comes to making TV shows.
And he only made it to 60, the age of 60. That guy.
Yeah, he died in 90. Yeah.
Right.
Died around when Dave Mader was watching Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Third season.
Season, yeah.
And he was also on T.J. Hooker with William Shatner. So hey,
that I didn't know.
He got around. So
yeah.
Okay.
Just goes to show you, like, you can see some very familiar faces in the original series.
So the actor that played the little kid in the show, he only ended up acting until 1972. Then he was done. He's still
didn't have a very long run, eh?
What's that? Yeah,
didn't have a very long run.
Age out of the cuteness.
He peaked early.
Dad, we've tackled our first episode of Star Trek: The Original Series. Perhaps not in the order of their run, but we can't get them all. Would you like to do this again? Would you want to cover another episode? And if
sure, yes, we can cover another episode.
Okay, which
I say we just let Ted pick.
Yeah, he picks.
Ted picks the episode. We all talk about it.
Okay, I'll send you an email. I'll look through the episodes and I'll pick a real good one for the next one.
That's what we should call this podcast. Ted picks of the original series or something like that.
You can call it Ted Talks, but I think that's already been taken.
Ted picks an era of original television, classic era television.
How about we call this? We should call this segment Ted Treks.
Ted Treks.
Yeah, or Ted's pick, because because you could pick a Batman episode, Dad, or you could pick a Gilligan's Island or something like that.
Yeah. Okay,
sure.
Hopefully Hogan's Heroes. I love Hogan's.
I'll send you. How about call it Ted's 60s adventure. Okay.
There you go.
And I'll pick a show from the 60s.
Right. Did you watch this episode when it first aired? Do you know?
Oh yeah.
You did.
Sure.
When it first debuted, you watched the show.
Yes, way back, yeah.
So Ted, I don't want to be rude, but how old would you have been roughly?
I was born in 1958, so I was when that was on. It was his second year.
10.
The episode aired the 7th of September in 1970. That doesn't make sense.
No, it can't be.
That's what it says.
Well, if then I would have been 12.
What, this episode? No, it aired in
1968.
It was 68 because I remember it saying on IMDb.
Yeah, you were about 10 when this
episode aired January 12th, 1968.
Yeah.
January 12th.
Just after your 10th
birthday. IMDb says it aired in
1970. I probably didn't watch that episode because January 8th would have been right after my birthday, and I used to get a box of hockey cards right after my birthday, so I'd be sorting hockey cards.
Sorting hockey cards, yeah.
Watching Star Trek when you were sorting.
That was in the UK. Sorry, that's when it originally aired in the UK. Yeah, you're right. 12th of January.
So I have a quick question for you, Ted.
Yes.
Now that you've heard our opinions on this episode, obviously we're of different generations than you. Obviously different type of fans of Star Trek as well. What is your take on our opinions? Like, do you feel that we've justified our opinions, or do you feel that we're kind of off base here?
Your opinions are good. Yeah. No problem. I thought they're all good opinions. It's there's people look at things different ways, obviously, but At the end of the day, it's entertainment, and that's what it is. So
just goes to show you the legacy of Star Trek, though, because somebody who
that's true.
can watch it when they were 8 and somebody who's watching it when they're in their 30s or 40s,
that's like 50,
we can still have the same take,
2
right?
years ago, right?
Yeah,
so
long time
ago. Yeah.
So I remember watching the next gen episodes in real time. I remember waiting for it to start, it's, you probably had the same type of adventure as well. So.
Oh yeah. Well, growing up in Halifax, everything started an hour later than an Eastern time, which everything was geared to. And so then you had to be allowed to stay up late. And then we only had one TV. So if my father wanted to watch the news at 10 o'clock, and Star Trek came on at 9 o'clock in Ontario, then I was not going to be able to watch Star Trek.
Right.
Oh.
Right. See, you got to remember that back then everybody had a TV today. Back then, the second TV was a little 12-inch black and white out in the back on the back porch area, and we had on that TV we had channel 5, channel 3, 5, and 13. 13 was the French network. And then 3 and 5 was CBC and CTV. That's all we got until 1971 or 2 when we got cable from
CBC
Bangor,
Halifax had every Saturday when you were in your early teens, when you were a tween, perhaps. There would have been reruns.
And Dan Arone says the CBC Halifax was on every Saturday night when I was in my teens. That's true. But, back when I was in my early teens, I was probably playing basketball or something. So Saturday nights, I probably wasn't watching it or watching the hockey game. So,
There you go.
It's a lot nicer now because you can literally just access what you want now, right?
You can.
You're like, I'm in the mood for Star Trek.
Well, Saturday morning. There. Yeah, it makes more sense, yeah.
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. There you go.
Okay.
Better than the cartoons.
All right, everybody. Well, I think we've said all we can about a piece of
okay, I'll get you a new one.
Get us a new one, Dad. We're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down and talk about the original series. This was a fun one, so let's keep it fun.
It was a pleasure to do a pod with you, Ted.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to mention before I close this out?
Just
we have another episode tomorrow, don't we?
We do. We're going to be back tomorrow on this channel, Live Long and Podcast. We'll be a little later tomorrow because we're doing a bit later, so just get everyone together. We're covering Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, which is a movie from 1984. It's the third movie in our Star Trek movie rewatch series. We're excited about that.
Excited isn't the word, but all right.
Well, yeah, it's maybe not the best Star Trek movie, but we're doing them all. That's the journey we're on.
Dave's gonna.
Well, the other thing I've learned is it's not as bad as one.
That's right.
Not as bad as one.
V'ger.
No,
V'ger was probably one of the worst.
I think I think by the end of this, we are going to definitively say that Star Trek.
Well, and honestly, that's the one thing I can say about doing this series with you guys is that I've learned to reevaluate things.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, and if just for that makes it worth it. Everybody out there, thank you for watching, listening, commenting tonight on our podcast. Join us for next time where we're doing our next 60s adventure with my dad here, Ted Mader. Make sure to subscribe to our Facebook page. You can use that. How about our YouTube channel? We also have an audio feed through Anchor, which you can use to subscribe to the audio version of the podcast, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever you use.
I don't know why you'd want to not view it, though.
Yeah, come on. With this face,
who wants to
these
listen
faces,
to it?
I gotta tell you, you'll be missing out.
Look at all the pretty faces on this show right now. And me.
I'm on Twitter at Super Dave Mader. You're at that Jody.
I'm on Twitter at that Jody.
I don't know if these two have Twitter handles.
I'm on drugs.
Well done.
I'm on Twitter at Mader Mose.
At Mader Mose. Make sure to check out.
I have a Twitter account. I don't know what it is.
Make sure to check out our
other so awesome channel. To watch him interrupt you. He's like,
we have a channel, another channel. It's called Super Mader Brothers Podcasting. That's where we cover basically anything that's not Star Trek.
That's a mixed fun right there.
Yeah, so we got TV movies over there. We're in the middle of covering Westworld season 3. Almost done that, and I think that's probably when soon we're gonna be picking up.
And you covered Tiger King recently.
Tiger King. We're also doing Survivor season 40, which is all winter season, which is really exciting. If you've ever watched Survivor, maybe consider checking that out. And and we're going to be doing, we did a Tiger King one. We're going to be doing all kinds of things. If you have suggestions, things you want us to watch and talk about, you want to get involved, let us know. Have a great day and night, everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow for Star Trek 3. Stay safe, stay at home, and make sure to keep coming back for more. Live long and podcast and long life. I'm Dave Mader. Let's go to you, Jody.
I'm Jody.
And I'm
I've been here.
At Ross Cup 1999. Ted Mader at Ross Cup 1999. That's my Twitter.
I'm Jeff.
That's a long Twitter.
I know.
Thanks, everybody, and you have a great night.
Take care.